The first hearing this month for the hearing officer. We skipped our last one, so it's been a while. Thank you for coming this evening. I'm going to read something into the record, and then we'll just jump right into our agenda this afternoon. The City of Tempe hearing officer is authorized by Arizona Revised Statutes and the City of Tempe Zoning and Development Code. The hearing officer has the duty to carry out the provisions and the intent of the Zoning and Development Code and the Tempe City Code. The hearing officer is granted the authority to conduct public hearings to decide upon the abatement of code violations occurring on properties within the city. These violations include, but aren't limited to, deteriorated landscaping, inoperable vehicles, deteriorated structures, storage of junk or refuse, or deteriorated swimming pools. Abatement actions are brought before the hearing officer by the city's Code Compliance Division, typically after numerous attempts at contacting the property owner to obtain voluntary compliance with the code. The hearing officer may issue an order directing the owner, occupant, rental agent, property manager, or other responsible person to remediate a code violation or authorize the city to abate the property to correct that violation. The cost of the abatement is the responsibility of the property owner of the property where the violation occurred and may be collected as an assessment against the property found to be in violation. On today's agenda, we have 5 items. We have a set of minutes from September 20th, 2022, and 4 property abatements. Any property owner who's aggrieved by a decision of the hearing officer may file an appeal within 14 calendar days after the hearing officer has made a decision. As such, the deadline for appealing any decision rendered today is 3 p.m. on November 2nd, 2022. Abatement appeals are heard by the Board of Adjustment, after which they may also be appealed to the Superior Court. The property owner has 14 days to either file an appeal or bring the property into code compliance. If neither of these things happen by this same date, November 2nd, 2022, the property will then be abated by the city. Joining me this afternoon from Community Development to my left are Cassidy Hernandez and Drew Yoakum. Thank you guys for being here this afternoon. So the first item on our agenda this afternoon is a set of minutes from September 20th, 2022. I had a chance to review those minutes as they were sent to me by Cassidy. Thank you. And I believe they accurately reflect what took place at that hearing. So I'm going to go ahead and approve the minutes of September 20th, 2022. Our next item is a request for approval to abate public nuisance items at the Brown property. This property is located at 1208 West Malibu Drive. This applicant is the City of Tempe, represented this afternoon by Code Inspector Hector Heredia. Good afternoon.
Excuse me. Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Hearing Officer McDonald. My name is Hector Heredia, Code Inspector with the City of Tempe Code Compliance Department. My last name is spelled Heredia. I am here this evening to request a 180-day open abatement at the property located at 1208 West Malibu Drive within the jurisdiction of the City of Tempe, 85282. Excuse me. This case was initiated on February 24th, 22 for junk, trash, debris across the front yard, as well as a deteriorated landscape and dead tree. Since the case was initiated, several anonymous complaints have been filed regarding the deteriorated state of the location. Due to lack of communication with the property owner, corrective measures, and multiple the abatement was forwarded to today. These are my findings as the case began. On 2/24 of 2022, anonymous complaints were received regarding junk, trash, debris across the front yard and a deteriorated landscape, including a dead tree. This was verified and a notice was mailed to the property owner. On 3/14/2022, an extension was granted after minor action was taken to remove some of the junk, trash, debris from areas that were visible from public access point. Shortly after, about 7 days later, another extension was granted after receiving news Mr. Brown was hospitalized. Shortly after that, on 4/01/2022, Mr. Brown reached out via email stating he was back home after his hospitalization. Mr. Brown also mentioned contacting Tempe Neighbors Helping Neighbors for assistance with scheduled on-site inspect where a scheduled on-site inspection was set for 4/12/2022. On 4/7/2022, anonymous complaints were received regarding the front yard state where junk trash debris was visible from public access. On 4/8/2022, additional complaints were received regarding junk trash debris, bad odors that were being omitted from the debris. And on 4/13/2022, Tempe Neighbors Helping Neighbors postponed their assessment until 4/27/22, while Adult Protective Services was also notified about the deteriorating state and involved Care 7 in the resolution process. Some time passed where agencies were talking to each other, trying to figure out the best course of action, providing assistance, trying to just be proactive in what needed to be done at the location totally. And on 6/3/2022, multiple interior concerns were discovered by Adult Protective Services, Care 7, as well as Tempe Neighbors Helping Neighbors. Direction by administration and management was given to grant a 30-day extension so that more accurate assessments of the property could take place by these agencies. Roughly a month later, on 7/1, anonymous complaints continued to come in regarding the deteriorated state of the property, junk trash debris, bad odors, deteriorated landscaping. Roughly a month later, on 8/5/2022, Code Compliance was informed by participating agencies that Mr. Brown had refused all assistance and was no longer cooperating with the agencies involved. Unfortunate, and due to the combined failed efforts provided by local and state agencies, a final notice was mailed to the property owner in hopes that it would be resolved. Roughly 7 days later, on 8/12/2022, after multiple failed attempts to reach the property owner, the abatement packet was turned in for the October 19th hearing officer, which is today. At this point, I'd like to bring to your attention the most current state of the property. I was at the location 15 minutes till 9 this morning, and this is my most current assessment. As you can see here, there's a portion of the property in the backyard where the fence is deteriorated, and after further assessments were made by all agencies, figured out that there was junk trash debris across the entire property. That was assessed in the final notice where all junk trash debris across the entire property must be addressed. As you can see here, there are several loose items pointed out here, here, and back here, throughout here, where there are items that either need to be discarded or properly stored or some way organized, which are not.
Right.
Sorry. This is also another view of the backyard up against the alley where we could see that the state of the fence, although not abatable, is in the state of deteriorating or disrepair, where two sets of fencing are collapsing against each other and could also be classified as junk trash debris. That is clearly notable here across the entire plane of the photo, where both chain link fence and wooden planked fence are collapsing against each other in a state of deterioration.
But you said the fences aren't abatable, right? You can't
No,
remove that?
unfortunately, they're not.
Okay.
But because these pieces of wood and steel, metal are loose, they can be classified as junk trash debris and removed.
Okay.
The chain link fence is more stable into the ground, and that might not be removed, but the wood portions
Okay.
will be.
Okay, thank you.
This is another portion of that same existing fence where junk trash debris has exited the backyard into a public right-of-way area facing the alley where it could easily be seen from public access points lined up against here, where not only is there deterioration in landscaping, but as well as the concern of junk trash debris. This is a photo from about 20 yards away from the property facing public access, where again we could see here where the landscaping is deteriorated or deteriorating up against here as well, and where the junk trash debris here can be easily seen from public access point. A more clear photo will outline that there are several items that should either be properly stored, discarded, or organized, which are not and can be seen in a chaotic manner. This final photo also illustrates in depth a much more a clear perspective that could be seen from public access of all the junk, trash, debris, loose items that are visible and have either not been properly stored, discarded, organized, and are in a complete state of deterioration. As stated before, I am seeking the approval of a 180-day open abatement period to resolve issues pertaining to junk, trash, debris across the entire property, as well as the deteriorated state of the landscaping at the location 1208 West Malibu Drive in the jurisdiction of the City of Tempe, 85282.
Well, thank you very much for your report. This is really sad. I mean, it seems like the guy is, on the one hand, he's infirm and unable to provide care for himself, but then somehow this mess is made on the property. I never can understand quite how that happens. But in any event, this case has been going on for 8 months, as you detailed in your report. And the city has made great efforts to try and help him through Tempe Neighbors Helping Neighbors and Adult Protective Services and Care 7. And I mean, the city can only attempt to help so much, but you can't help someone who doesn't want that assistance. So given the state of the property today and the evolution of this property, I agree with your assessment that it needs to be abated. I do need to call to the public, though. Drew, is there anyone on the line wanting to speak to this item?
No, Madam Hearing Officer.
Thank you. And I'll note that there's no one here in the chamber other than staff wanting to speak on this item. So I'm going to go ahead and approve your 180-day open abatement request contained in application CE 221243. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next item, again, is a request for approval to abate public nuisance items at the Wright property. This is located at 2124 South Mill Avenue. Again, the applicant is the City of Tempe, represented again by Hector Heredia.
Good afternoon, Officer McDonald. Again, as stated before, my name is Hector Heredia, last name spelled Heredia. I am a Code Compliance Officer for the Code Compliance Division. I am here this evening to request a 180-day open abatement for the property located at 2124 South Mill Avenue within the jurisdiction of the City of Tempe, 85282. This case was initiated on April 7, 2022 for four overgrown palm trees, including dead palm fronds on the front yard, as well as a deteriorated landscape that could be seen from public access. Since the case was initiated, several anonymous complaints have been filed regarding the deteriorated state of the location. Due to the lack of communication with the property owner, corrective measure, and multiple citations, are here requesting an abatement. These are my findings as follow. On 4/7/22, Code Compliance Division received a complaint for an overgrown palm tree, including palm fronds on the front yard, which include a deteriorated front yard landscaping. Included, excuse me. These concerns were verified, and the first notice was mailed to the property owner as well as to the tenants at the location 2124 South Mill Avenue. On 4/18, anonymous 4/18/2022, excuse me, anonymous complaints were received regarding the deteriorated state of the property and the state of the overgrown palm trees, dead palm fronds, and the ongoing state of the deteriorated landscaping. A couple days later, 4/20/2022, management contacted Tim Wright about the deteriorated property and how to properly maintain the location to eliminate correspondence from our department. At this time, violations were clarified and updated. Shortly after, about a week later, on 4/26/2022, at the second inspection, no corrective action had taken place, and the final notice was mailed to the property owner with the updated violations as spoken to previously. On 5/2/2022, management spoke to Mr. Wright about possible updates that could not be verified. 8 days later, on 5/10/2022, work on the pending violations began but were not completed, so could not close the case. A few days later, on 5/3/2022, management waited for Tim Wright to update current pending schedules, but again could not be verified, and no follow-up dialogue continued. It was just a misfire, so to speak. On 5, excuse me, I lost track. On 5/24/2022, management spoke to Mr. Wright once again about providing possible updates that could not be verified. No corrective action had taken place, and pending violations were continuing to worsen over time. So roughly about a week later, on 6/3/2022, at the time of inspection, very little to no corrective action had taken place. I was instructed to issue a second final notice, which was mailed to the property owner and to the tenant as well. Shortly after, on 6/21/2022, a first citation was issued after the property was not brought into compliance. Shortly after, on 6/27/2022, additional anonymous complaints were received regarding the deteriorated state of the property, overgrown palm fronds, dead palm trees, and the continual deteriorating state of the landscaping. Shortly after that, approximately a month, 30 days was provided on that final extension notice, and on 8/4/2022, a second citation was issued after the property was not brought into compliance. And on 8/23/2022, the abatement packet was turned in for the October 19th hearing officer, as we are here tonight, because the property could not be brought into compliance. I was by the property earlier this morning, roughly at 8:50, and would like to illustrate the most current state of the property.
Thank you. I have the pictures in the packet, but
As you can see, the variety in photos across the time frame of this entire case have not changed very much. Although some corrective action has been taken, the work could never be completed even up until today. I was at the property, as stated, at 8:50-ish this morning, and you can see here that there is a huge palm island that I like to classify, because there are several palm trees growing within each other, intertwined, where there are multiple palm fronds that have been cut off after exceeding height limits from the ground and from the lowest living limb, causing for the violation to be easily verified, because it is on a public access, it is on a major roadway on Mill Avenue. You can clearly see here that although efforts have been taken, that about half the height of the palm trees are inundated with dead palm fronds that were not properly removed or discarded. This photo here shows a closer view of the particular concern. As can be seen here, again, it goes higher than half the length of the highest palm tree that could be seen in the photo, where palm fronds exceed height limits from top to bottom, as well as deteriorated fronds that are laid in between the intertwined trees. Stepping a little further back, we can see here that the landscaping has also been neglected, although the easiest portion of this violation was simply overlooked, totally neglected, or blatantly not addressed. We can clearly see here that from Mill Avenue here is about 6, 7, 8 yards and could be easily seen without any trouble at all. The photos here illustrate where all of the overheight has now intertwined into the existing living trees and vegetation, where overheight has been verified. As stated before, I am seeking a 180-day open abatement for the overgrown palm trees, including dead palm fronds and an overgrown deteriorated landscape located at the location 2124 South Mill Avenue within the jurisdiction of the City of Tempe, 85282.
Thank you. It's hard not to agree with your assessment here. I mean, for lack of a better word, it's a jungle in here, you know? I mean, it's very much like a natural jungle where, you know, seeds fall off the palm trees and they grow, you know, without being maintained, and they grow into each other and through each other. So the property owner has been pretty much unresponsive to this point?
Mr. Wright has made minimal communication efforts solely up until the final week before his property manager actually contacted me asking for an extension. At that point in time, it was clearly stated that if the property was not cleaned between 48 to 78 or 72 hours, I could not eliminate the case from the hearing officer tonight based on timely processes. Monday was that cutoff time. Although I had given Friday, I overlooked the Friday extension, hoping that it would be completed by Monday, but could not. Mr. Wright attempted multiple times today to reach me, but there was very little that I can do based on the final stages of the abatement process, which we are here tonight fulfilling.
Right. So Mr. Wright is the property owner, but he has a property manager. So he doesn't live on the property. He's got a property manager, and then there's a tenant who actually lives among this.
I am not sure about the tenant because I am not allowed to go onto the property to investigate tenantship unless it's obvious. In this case, it was not. The property sits well within this lot of land, which is roughly about 50 yards, 60 yards from public access point, which is Mill Avenue.
Right.
The front yard is what is the closest portion of his property in proximity to what I am authorized to use as my point of view.
Sure, I get it. So, well, thank you. Thank you for your thorough report, for the up-to-date pictures. It's always nice to have just a real accurate, current understanding of the property. Drew, is there anyone on the line wanting to speak on this agenda item?
No, Madam Hearing Officer.
Okay, thank you. Again, I'll make note of the fact there's no one other than staff here this afternoon. So I agree with your assessment, as I previously said. All of these properties or these trees need to be untangled and cut down. And as you know, if you've seen my hearings, I've done single palm tree abatements before. So this is, I mean, it's amazing that it's gotten to this point. It has been 6 months worth of you trying to communicate with the property owner, which is ample time. for him to get his act together, so to speak, and address this problem. So I am going to go ahead and approve your abatement. 180 days?
180 days,
Okay,
please.
thank you for the property, the right property located at 2124 South Mill Avenue, contained in application CE 222239. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is another request for approval to abate public nuisance items. This time it's the Davis property located at 2923 South Albert Avenue. The applicant is the city of Tempe, and again, represented by Hector Heredia.
Good evening again, Officer Miss McDonald. Hearing Officer McDonald, excuse me. As stated before, my name is Hector Heredia, spelled Heredia. I am a code compliance officer with the City of Tempe Code Compliance Division, and I am here this evening to request a 180-day open abatement period for the property located at 2923 South Albert Avenue within the jurisdiction of Tempe 85282. This case was initiated on April 21st, 2022 for junk trash debris, including a deteriorated landscape with overheight across the front and backyard areas. Since the case was initiated, several anonymous complaints have also been filed, regarding the deteriorating state of the location due to the lack of communication with the property owner and active corrective measures. I am here requesting an abatement. These are my findings as follow. On 4/21/2022, Code Compliance received an anonymous complaint regarding junk trash debris, including a deteriorated landscape with overheight on the front and backyard areas. These concerns were verified, and the first notice was mailed to the property owner. Shortly after, on 5/9/2022, at the second inspection, no corrective actions had been taken, and the final notice was issued to the property owner. Shortly after that, on 5/18/2022, management received a call that Care 7 and Tempe Neighbors Helping Neighbors was now involved due to physical, mental, and financial hardships. An extension was granted for proper assessment of the owner and current conditions of the property. Time went on as these inspections were taking place, assessments and assistance, and on 7/12/2022, I state, assistance and care by Care 7 and Tempe Neighbors Helping Neighbors continues to be offered to Mr. Davis. Some time goes on, and on 8/5/2022, work continues between agencies, Care 7, Tempe Neighbors Helping Neighbors, and Mr. Davis. But shortly after that, about a week later, on 8/18/2022, all parties involved have stopped communicating with code compliance. Mr. Davis has been reluctant to move forward with assistance and the necessary process to clear pending violations. So on 8/26/2022, after multiple failed attempts to reach city agencies, the property owner, where no corrective actions had taken place, a final notice was then mailed to the property owner. Excuse me, on 9/9/2022, after multiple failed attempts to reach the property owner, the abatement packet was turned in for the October 19, 2022 hearing officer, which is tonight. No citations were issued because multiple agencies were involved, and although time was granted to try to resolve all concerns, there was no need for citation based on all the compounding hardships that Mr. Davis has, and that's why no citations were particularly issued in this case, and just want to clear the property up.
Well, thank you. Well, again, do you have photographs?
I do. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
My throat closed up and I didn't finish my sentence. I would like to present at this time the
Sure.
most current state of the location. These pictures were taken roughly at 9:15. All properties before are in close proximity. That's why the close times between each other. So this particular photo here is a picture of the deteriorated fence line. Although not abating the deteriorated fence, we can clearly see that the deteriorated, overgrown landscaping is coming through the fence line and into the right-of-way area, can easily be seen here and in instances here. In the next photo, going down the alleyway in the right-of-way area, we can see that a portion of the fence has been knocked down and unstable, and right behind it here is a pile of items that either need to be stored, discarded, or properly organized, which are not. A yard or so away from the previous photo and now facing the front yard from public access, we can see that again here the fence is deteriorated. Overheight inundates the entire photo across the entire plane of the photo, and can see here where there are piles of junk, trash, debris, again that can be seen from multiple access points here, Albert, and here would be the alley.
So that's the front yard.
This is the front
Yeah.
yard, yes. A close inspection of the front yard here clearly illustrates multiple points that can be seen in the photo here, where there is overheight deteriorated landscaping and where there are multiple items in the front and front side yard area that can be seen from public access, where items have not been properly stored, discarded, or organized. This is a closer view of the previous photo where items can be more easily seen.
Sure. Thank you.
And I excuse the order of these photos, but this is a photo of the backyard where landscaping again is clearly overgrown and in a state of attention, where it needs attention, but the property owner has failed to do so. And again, I'd like to apologize for these pictures being out of order, but this picture is of the backyard pictured. This picture is behind the first photo initially shown, where you could see into the backyard from public access points, which is the alley, and can clearly see where there are several points across the entire plane where the trees have begun to deteriorate. Junk, trash, debris is littered throughout the entire bottom portion of the picture plane, as well as overheight here through the vegetation, as well as on the southern and northern sides of the property.
Wow. Okay.
As stated before, I am seeking a 180-day open abatement period for junk, trash, debris, including a deteriorated landscape, as including overheight grass and weeds for the property located at 2923 South Albert Avenue within the jurisdiction of Tempe, 85282.
Thank you. Again, this is another one where the city has, in my view, kind of gone above and beyond trying to get a hold of social service agencies, get someone who clearly has some sort of health issues or other types of issues preventing them from caring for their property, perhaps for themselves. So yeah, this property clearly needs to be remediated and abated by the city. Mr. Yocum, is anyone on the line wanting to talk about the Davis property?
No, Madam Hearing Officer.
Thank you. Again, I'll note there's no one here in the chamber wanting to speak on this agenda item. So it's been 7 months. That's a long time for a property to just continue to deteriorate. So I'm going to go ahead and approve your request to abate the Davis property 180 days. I'll make note of that. 2923 South Albert Avenue, contained in application CE 222546. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all your time and attention this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. The last item on our agenda this afternoon is a request for approval to abate public nuisance items at the Finnell property located at 2440 East La Jolla Drive. The applicant is the City of Tempe, represented by Melissa Ensing. Good afternoon.
Hello, thank you, Madam Hearing Officer. My name is Melissa Insing. I'm a Code Compliance Inspector with the City of Tempe Code Compliance Division. I'm here this evening to request a 180-day open abatement for the property located at 2440 East La Jolla Drive. This case was initiated on May 12, 2022 for deteriorated landscape with grass and weeds growing in the gravel landscape in the front, side, and rear yards, along with a deteriorated fence. This case has received 2 public complaints. I have sent 2 notices to the property owner, along with a notice posted to the property. I've had no contact with the owner. I issued a citation for this property for deteriorated landscape and deteriorated fence. The owner failed to appear, and now the citation has gone to collections. At this time, I'd like to present photos taken today of the existing violations.
Thank you.
All right, this is the front of the property where you can see the grass and weeds growing out throughout the property. And then some of the landscape debris within this portion of the weeds. This is a view from the east side of the corner where you can see the grass and weeds as well closer, along with the deteriorated fence that has fallen over. This is a closer view of the deteriorated fence, just to give an idea of how big the opening is where it's fallen.
Now, when we abate this, will we try and secure that? Or
They'll just take it down.
Take it down?
Yeah, and then the parts that, in another picture you'll see that's actually laying on the ground, they'll just take that away and remove
Okay.
it. This is the west side of the property. On the other side of the driveway, there's grass and weeds growing as well. And this is a picture of the rear yard facing north. You can see the grass and weeds growing within the rocks, and there's a little. It's starting to die off on the tree right here.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is another part of the backyard. It's on the east side. You can see where the fencing from the front has fallen off. And it's
Right.
on the ground. And then the grass and weeds growing throughout the gravel area right here. As stated before, I'm seeking a 180-day open abatement for the deteriorated landscaping along with the landscape debris and the deteriorated fence located at 2440 East La Jolla Drive, Tempe, Arizona 85282.
Thank you. Well, this one's been a little bit shorter time window, but it's still been 5 months and without any participation in a dialogue at all from the property owner, right?
Right. I've posted and they've not contacted me. They've taken the notices off the door.
So they're clearly getting them. They're just choosing not to do anything about it.
Yes.
Okay. Drew, is there anyone on the line?
No, Madam Hearing Officer.
Okay. Well, I should note that, these hearings are noted. The property owners understand that this hearing is going to take place, and there's ample opportunity either in person or online or by phone to participate. And so these property owners just choose to forego that opportunity. So with no testimony from the public, from the property owner, and given the state of the property, I'm going to go ahead and grant your 180-day open abatement request contained in application CE 222987.
Thank you, Madam Hearing Officer.
That concludes our agenda this afternoon. Drew, do you have any announcements?
Yes, just the one. Our next scheduled hearing officer meeting will be on Tuesday, November 1st. That will be at 5 p.m. here in the Tempe City Council chambers, as well as live on Tempe 11.
Perfect. Thank you. We're adjourned.